Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this morning. My name is Murali Avanamuthu. I'm one of the founder directors of Cetas, and I'm joined today by my colleague Prakash Kandaraj, who heads the sales and marketing function in our organization, and Mr. Paul Paulson, product marketing lead from Microsoft, has agreed to spend time with us in steering this webinar and getting this started. And so today we will be the topic for today's webinar is time to upgrade. You're all customers of Dynamics NAV. And as you're all aware, Microsoft has launched Dynamics 365 Business Central for Indian market from April, though it has been available globally for a few years now. And it's definitely a right time for customers like yourself to consider this upgrade from NAV to Business Central. So in this regard, I welcome Mr. Paulson to talk about the product, the roadmap, what's Microsoft's strategy around cloud, around Business Central, and so on. And then at the end of the presentation, I will talk about how you can look at migration from a process and approach point of view. So over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Murali. I just want to make sure all of you can hear me. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, very
perfect. Well. Okay. So thank you, Murali. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, all our customers who are here despite your busy schedules. And I hope all of you had a very good Deepavali. And also your teams, your families are all doing safe. Also, thank you for the quick introduction, Mr. Murali. My name is Prabhu Paulson. I work with Microsoft as product marketing manager for Dynamics 365, of which Business Central is a part of. So I promised that I'll keep this short. We'll keep this give or take about 15 minutes at the most from my side, and then we'll keep the questions towards the end so we can use our time most effectively. Or I think there's a chat option available, and you can use the chat option to put your questions in, and we can take them offline or online depending on the availability of time. So without further ado, I'm here to talk to you about Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. What is Business Central? Right? If I have to put it in one single phrase, it's an all-in-one business management for small and medium businesses. And when I talk about small and medium businesses, this could be any business which is on the growth trajectory, which is almost all of us. We've had a very tough 1.5 to 2 years, and we're really coming out of it. And as a country, we are coming out strong. So every business that I am talking to are facing challenges, but nonetheless are on the growth trajectory. So having said that, I am hoping that all of us will find value at the end of the session. All of you are NAV customers will see value in one shape or form of moving to the next level of NAV vision, which is Business Central. So if you traditionally looked at NAV vision was taking care of most of your traditional ERP planning, AP, AR, GL kind of requirements. But about 4 or 5 years ago, when we said we'll have to redefine Business Central, which is the next version of NAV vision, we went out to the market and we tried to understand a couple of business challenges. So one thing that we realized is most customers were having two requirements, right? They were having CRM and ERP. And at Microsoft, we decided how can we actually bring both these things together to make a single solution, which gives you some core CRM functionalities if you don't have it, and if you have, how can we make that better and integrate it with your core ERP solution? Now, by doing that, what Dynamics Business Central does for you is brings your multiple functions, sales, marketing, post-sales service, and your project management, if you are time and material kind of an organization, along with your core finance and operations, which in our vision, any which ways did. Now, this did two things for our customers. As Mr. Murali mentioned, Business Central has been in the market since late 2018, early 2019. So the product has been in the market for about 2 years. We took some time to figure out the GST motions. And what we are constantly seeing is customers are coming back to us and saying, well, one of the advantages that we see with Business Central is now our data is integrated across the complete business. We are able to see what is the pipeline looking from a sales and a sales point of view. We're looking at inventory, and also from a finance perspective, we are also able to look at cash flow, pending payments, delays in supply chain, all of that. So that is the intelligence that data is able to bring through, and therefore making Business Central a unified, adaptable solution which keeps up with changing business needs. In addition to it, there is something called Power Platform, which I'm sure all of you have heard of, which is our low-code, no-code, and RPA solution. Power Apps can help you with as simple as getting your reports together. There are embedded reports, but let's say you want custom reports, you can build custom reports. You want to do RPA, robotic process automation, for invoice processing, OCR scans, you can definitely use our Power Automate. Or you want to build extensions for your distributors, you can use Power Apps and build it. So we really offer an end-to-end solution with Business Central, which started as NAV for us. We went through the entire journey. We brought in a lot of customer feedback of bringing CRM functionalities as well as extension capabilities, along with everything that you get from NAV Vision today. So this talks about disconnected systems, and this also holds to some extent true for us as NAV customers. So NAV customers, while you are completely integrated from within your NAV ecosystem, you get all your reports, but in some cases we are seeing customers who have the distributors in a different system. They have some of their third-party logistics warehouses or TPA warehouses using third-party systems. So getting a 360-degree view becomes a challenge because you can't extend NAV to a third-party TPA, you can't, or a third-party warehouse, TPA warehouse. 3PL, sorry, not 3TPA. I was talking to a hospital and TPA came to my mind, but 3PL, third-party logistics warehouses. And similarly, the same thing goes for distributors. So what Business Central does is it gives the ability, especially with Business Central Cloud, to give access, even if it's limited team member access, to your 3PL logistics provider, to your distributors, so they can start updating information, start looking at reports. So when you look at the reports, you're not only looking at what is available to you in your core operations, but you can extend the reporting view and the functionalities of your core NAV Vision to your vendors, suppliers, and logistics partners if you are in need of a supply chain. Also, we understand that many of the businesses are running into issues with aging hardware, right? So hardware continues to depreciate while it is becoming cost effective, but it still is a roadblock that, or a hurdle that every organization has to revisit every 5 or 7 years, depending on your refresh cycles. But every 5 or 7 years, you need to plan about spending a couple of lakhs, if not a crore, on hardware, thinking about moving your systems from one hardware to another. That impacts business, that impacts your P&L as well. So we kind of said, okay, how do we address all of this? So we, as I mentioned, built out Business Central. We brought out the core pillars that run any organization: financial management, sales and service, project management, operation management, and supply chain, which are everything that you're used to. And we built a very good reporting and analytics tool. And what we were able to do, which is possible in NAV Vision, but a little some other additional step, but what happens out of the box with Business Central is you can seamlessly integrate your payroll, your banking, your CRM, or your industry specific solutions. In fact, Microsoft is working with a couple of GSP providers, right? GST providers or GSPNs. To ensure how we can not only take care of your banking requirements and your payroll requirements, but how can we make your entire GST compliance, your GST filing a lot more integrated into your core ledger, which may not be very out of the box in Vision, but with Business Central, all of these can be brought forward from your app store. So I don't want to walk you through all of this. You as NAV customers will each be a testament to using any one of these features and how this feature has been critical to you as an organization. But there are these several features, all of it readily available to you from Business Central. On the cloud, if you turn it on the premises, you turn it on, all these features are available. So in a nutshell, just keeping in view with time, we are close to the 10-minute mark. What Business Central does for you, which NavVision was doing, is it takes NavVision, takes the capabilities of NavVision and completely connects your business. It brings in other aspects of your lead management and sales post-service. With Business Central, you can connect your ecosystem, be distributors, retailers, 3PL providers, all of them can be brought in. What that lets you to do is helps you as business owners to make even more smarter decisions. You are making very insightful decisions using NavVision, but those decisions get a lot more smarter with more data coming in across the board. And the best part is with Business Central, you can start with one license and scale up. For NavVision, we know that you probably have a slightly larger setup. You may be having 10, 15 concurrent licenses. So for NavVision customers, we have special offers where you can transition smoothly from concurrent to named users. I will cover that briefly, and Murli will cover it a little more in detail. So in a nutshell, why Business Central makes so much sense to growing businesses? You get to connect your complete business, giving you 360-degree view, so you make smarter decisions, and we can make sure that Business Central grows with you as you grow your business. Now, Business Central, very interestingly, comes to you in 3 flavors. I'll deep dive a little more. So if you are a NAV customer and you say, I'm so used to having my own solution in my own data center managed by my IT team, Business Central, yes, can be deployed on premises. We also have Business Central Cloud, which is what we as Microsoft are seeing many customers globally pick it up. In India as well, more than 60 to 65% of new customers who are getting on board are moving to Business Central. So if you look at net new customers to Business Central, 90% are moving to cloud. If I look at NAV customers, more than 60 to 70% are moving to the cloud. So cloud is growing. All of you as business owners have seen how cloud has been changing. And we also allow a third-party option, or a third placeholder option, where you can deploy Business Central on Azure. So that way you can manage Business Central the way you want to manage and still not worry about your hardware. So we give you a solution that works very well for your organization, that will grow with your organization, but we also leave the choice on how you want to adopt Business Central. Now, why should we look at Business Central, and why should we look at having spent so much time on a solution like NAV or NavVision that's worked for us? Is Microsoft by design has a 10-year policy, life cycle policy, where we support a product for 10 years. So by that definition, NavVision 2016 will be supported till April 2026. However, on 13th of April 2021, that is April of this year, it moved from mainstream support to extended support. This is what the number you see in the middle. Now, what that means is there will be no more updates to the product or to the localization. Now, for most markets, this is not a problem because it's a product. We've addressed all the challenges from 2016 to 2021, which is 5 years. And we've also taken care of most issues that are there. But for India, it becomes a special challenge, especially given the changes we are expecting from the Ministry of Finance to our tax regimes. So as an exception, India worked with the engineering team. So we have an exception to support any changes that the Ministry of Finance will make to your core financial systems up till April 30th, 2022. So give or take, we have another 4 to 5 months before we can, we will not have support from engineering teams to make any changes to the localization. So if you are running your core GL, APAR, and your procurement processes and your payment processes on Dynamics Navision 2016, it will be a good time to start discussing of looking at Business Central to move your core GL, APAR solutions, so you can eventually move all your systems. So we will talk about the moving methodologies, but please keep in mind, 30th April 2022 is when we will not, will be the last day in which engineering will support India from changing anything if any changes are made by the Ministry of Finance. So having said that, quickly talking about the benefits of on-premises and cloud. I know you heard this from a lot of providers, but as I mentioned, the numbers speak for themselves. Net new customers, first-time customers to Business Central, 90% are opting for cloud. Navision customers choosing to migrate, about 65 plus percentage of customers are opting for cloud. The main reason is there is no initial cost. You have used your hardware, you've used NAV, you can transition completely to the SaaS model. And the advantage of a SaaS model is there is no further upgrades needed. You move to the cloud, you move to the platform, and you are you're running on the latest version of Business Central at all times. Microsoft does 2 major releases every year. So that happens, one in April, one in October. So there is no disruption to your business. It's a smooth transition. And by design, you have zero maintenance spend in terms of IT infrastructure, in terms of administration, and your app source, Power Apps, all of it becomes a straightforward, simple download from app source. Similarly, there are no requirements for database management, SQL licensing, all of that is taken care of, and Microsoft takes care of all your security requirements. Now, if you are a NAV customer, we got 2 exciting offers. One is a special offer for Business Central customers, for Business Central and NAV customers only. Is if you are a NAV customer and you are on, if you're paying BREP, we can convert your BREP into monthly billing and move you to Business Central Cloud at 60% discount. So this is the best way to go forward. There is also another standard offer, which is applicable to all on-premises solutions. Any customer who is on AX, NAV, GP, CRM can move to Dynamics 365 Cloud at 40% discount. So you have access to both. Obviously, 60% is a lot more lucrative than 40%, and that's only applicable to NAV customers. So this is a great opportunity for you all to think about this. And we have factored in, we understand many of our customers are on concurrent users, and moving to named users is a challenge. So if you're moving from NAV on-premises to BC on-premises, we do have a 1:3 mapping. So your concurrency, in a sense, will be taken care of through the grandfathering rights. If you're moving to the cloud, we have a 60% offer. So that is applicable for 1 year, extensible for another 2 years. Prakash and team will be happy to walk you through the details. So that way we can also help you absorb the cost of moving from a concurrent user to a named user. So in a nutshell, team, I am going to hand over to Murli sir, but we've got a product which is changing the world. You have experienced it firsthand with Navision. Now, given that we have the solution's been in the market for the last 6 months, we've seen excellent traction, and we have 2 great offers. We sincerely request you to consider the time to upgrade, and we factored in everything, right? If you're moving from on-premises to on-premises, we've got a 1:3 mapping, so you're covered in terms of concurrency. Similarly, we are taking care of your cloud movement with a 60% discount. So from Microsoft, we are committed to supporting you, and we are looking forward to making this partnership that we've had with Navision even more successful for us in the cloud as we move to Business Central. Thank you so much. Murli sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul, for that wonderful presentation. And let me now share. I hope you can all see my screen and hear me well.
Yes, Mr. Murali.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Yeah, so I'm going to touch upon the upgrade approach. You as an NAV customer wanting to move to Business Central, what are the options and what are the implications and approaches you should look at and things like that. So that would be the scope of my presentation. So in terms of upgrade, we are talking about basically sort of three approaches. So one is what we call as the typical technical upgrade, whether you are coming from on-premise to on-premise or whether you are moving from on-premise to SaaS, this approach is applicable, where basically if this is applicable, if you are happy with the current NAV in terms of the way the posting groups are defined, the chart of accounts you're happy with, and the the dimensions, or you're happy with the way your item masters are structured, whatever. So if that being the case, then and you want to continue with the same data as well, so this probably would be a good approach where there would be a technical migration of the code and the data being migrated, and you will be up and running on Business Central with exactly the same functionality, same customizations you are familiar with, and so on. So this would be the grade approach. And the next one is what we call as lift and shift, or move and shift. So this is more of I would say a sort of an interim step before you take the sort of a big step. So if you look at the evolution of Business Central as a platform, Microsoft came with the versions like BC 13 and BC 14, where there was sort of a compatibility with the C side coding. So what that means is whatever code you have in NAV would exactly work as is in Business Central, and then you don't have to rewrite the code. But if you all know, Business Central is actually built on a sort of a new technology stack with what we call as the AL coding, and the power of extensions has been brought in. What does that extension mean is that, our code, the custom code of the customer, or if you have ISV add-on app, all those reside on a separate layer, and they don't conflict with the base code of Microsoft in any way. And this will make future upgrades much more seamless and easier. And like Paul mentioned, you have 2 releases every year, major releases, and these upgrades are not like earlier NAV versions which you might have encountered from 2009 to 13, for example, where there would have been definitely significant coding or code migration work might have been involved. So anyway, so this lift and shift is basic, or move and shift is an approach where we take the NAV code and then just as is move it into Business Central with the cal coding and everything. So comparatively, it's a much shorter time frame and lesser efforts. And this is some customers look at this as a de-risked option where they don't have to make that big step of converting all their custom code onto extensions and wait for a couple of months for the code migration to happen and so on. So this is that approach of just getting onto BC, but on an earlier version with the compatibility to cal coding. Then you can consider moving on to the full extension-based coding and reap the benefits of future upgrades being much more seamless at a next step, as a next iteration or whatever. So that is that approach number 2. And the last approach is when we call it as a clean start or a re-implementation. So this re-implementation would be more applicable, like for example, when I initially mentioned, there are things like you want to restructure your chart of accounts, or you want to restructure your item masters in terms of item categories or product groupings and so on, or the dimensions you want to redo because your business has also gone through a radical change or a transformation. So in those kind of situations, then it's time to go back to the drawing board, start looking at the entire business and map that to the new system, which is Business Central on the cloud, and then go for a complete re-implementation. And in a re-implementation, typically the historical data will not be migrated because you are sort of doing the entire system. So we typically go with a opening balances and masters alone being cleaned up and moving on to the new system. So these are the 3 approaches, and we have done some upgrades and re-implementations so far, and every customer has their own unique needs, and these are things which we would work with you to define what is right for you, and then accordingly choose the relevant option for you. So the next is, again, moving on to the on-premise versus SaaS. So there are, for example, customers who, the decision to go to cloud sometimes look daunting, and because maybe you may have a lot of customizations, you have done a lot of work on the SQL Server level, and you still want to have that access to SQL database directly, and you are integrate. There are a lot of integrations you have done, and some of the localizations you have done are not exactly available on SaaS. I'm sorry, not the localization, I meant add-ons. If you have ISV add-ons, which they are probably not yet available for SaaS, but they may be available for BC on-prem. So things like that, then you could look at on-prem. But we strongly recommend you to look at SaaS to get the advantage of continual improvement culture, having access to always the latest version of the product at any given point in time, seamless upgrades of the future and so on, and not having to worry about maintaining the infrastructure, being able to reap the benefits of REST API based integrations, which are all more future proofing, if you will. So those are all some of the options which we strongly recommend, and definitely, like Paul mentioned, there's a lot of traction towards cloud. New customers are definitely preferring cloud, and existing customers are also on a majority are preferring the cloud. So we strongly urge you to look at the SaaS offering. But again, we'll be happy to work with you and define what is right for you. Yeah. Okay. So that's about the on-premise versus SaaS question. And in terms of process, I just wanted to touch upon, we typically, as an upgrade, we take a look at the existing system and do an audit and make sure that, we capture the baseline. What we mean by baseline is we capture the essence of various transactions and define them as a baseline test scenarios, and then go about making the migration of the object, migration of the data if applicable. Then do a user acceptance test against the baseline criteria. If there is data migration, verify the data migration, then repeat the migration in the live environment, verify the data migration, and declare go live. So this is a simple upgrade process, slightly different from the implementation process, like analysis, design, and so on. But in a migration or an upgrade, we are looking at basically moving the technology and keeping the functionality kind of as is or whatever. Yeah. So that's basically sort of a quick recap on, again, on-prem versus SaaS, and the upgrade approach as a SDLC phases and so on. So that's basically I just wanted to touch upon some of these key points, and we will be now open for any questions you might have.